been working since I was 14. That's more than 30 years. Early on, I did things like teach aerobics complete with the Jane Fonda leg warmers, and I was a fry cook, and I was a ROTC cadet, and I painted portraits and all kinds of stuff like that. And then after business school, I entered the white-collar workforce. And I was totally stunned by the meaninglessness of what they were asking me to do. Timesheets, spreadsheets, and managing optics, and how much they were willing to pay me to do it. So this life of work just felt so out of sync with the natural world. It felt out of sync with family life. It felt out of sync with what was important to me. And it also was really underutilizing my skills. So gradually, I had to abandon that and become an entrepreneur, make my own way, and eventually I became a tech CEO. But over all of these jobs, it started me into a process of inquiring, really, about work. I mean, I love to work. I love building and creating things. It was just this cultural institution of work that didn't really resonate. So I started asking questions, first from an analytical perspective, like, is it historical or structural? And very quickly, this topic of work shifted for me to becoming essentially a philosophical and spiritual question. That it really is about the ideas we bring into the workplace about the people we're with that frame the institution. And that if fundamentally we were to change that viewpoint, the institution and the design of work would change also. So I want you to go on a little journey with me and imagine that this baby was your child. He's so full of potential. He could be anything when he grows up. What would you think if you were to imagine him growing up and, say, crossing a border illegally and working for 12 hours a day, day after day, separating chicken parts in a factory? Would that be what you want for your child? Or imagine that he grows up to be a cubicle inmate. He's a middle manager, looking at spreadsheets day after day and sitting there. Would that be the dream you had for him? I think not. I think what we want for each of us and each of our babies is to find work that leverages our unique talents and abilities, that is in line with our values and mission, and that helps us create meaning in our lives. And we hope that this baby will do it in the company of people who are collaborative and who respect him, and that he will be respected and well compensated for what he does. Because we know as adults that work matters. We spend half of our waking life at work. And if you take away all the maintenance of bodily functions, like cleaning ourselves and taking the body from place to place, it's probably more like 70%. And so when we're talking about work, it's not just this thing we do, it's our entire life force. What are you trading your life force for when you come to the office? So we know, too, that not everybody is going to make it to the top of the ladder. That statistically speaking, a lot of those babies are still going to have to work the line at the In-N-Out Burger, or they're going to have to be in some kind of Henry Ford-era menial job. And that even if he's got that ambition, baby, he does not necessarily have the skills and the opportunity to get up and out. And statistically speaking, it's unlikely. So we then grant our babies this opportunity to take meaningless jobs where their work and their meaning are separate. And because so much of the time is at work, their life and their meaning are separate, and it produces alienation. So what I would like to do now is to see if we can shift from this kind of thinking, country western songs that say, we take it on the chin all week long, like this guy, and begin to reconceive what work might actually become if we were to shift the lens to something else. Because we need a new underlying design and a new viewpoint. We know that people are willing to do almost anything to make their money, right? They'll sell themselves, they'll sell other people, they'll sell their children, they'll make themselves sick, they'll stay in jobs where they're disrespected for a very long time. But just because they're willing to do it doesn't mean that we should ask them to. It doesn't mean, behind every bad job, there is a design, unconscious or conscious, and that design has a viewpoint. So for example, somebody says, I've got to get that coal out of the ground. I'm going to send poor men in there, even though I know the mine might collapse on their head, even though the canary might be dying. I'm going to send them in there because the outcome matters more to me than the process or the people. And that viewpoint is, these men's lives aren't worth protecting. And when you get to something like this, the contemporary knowledge worker, the viewpoint is a little bit more like killing me softly. It's more, I will allow you to minimize your life by having you sit in a job that only uses a part of your capacity over a long period of time. We call people that do this for a long time as those who have undergone a cubotomy. So this design has a viewpoint too. He or she is less than me. It's a very old viewpoint, one that was inherited. We don't do it because we're necessarily evil. It's because we inherited it through a long line of assumptions that hierarchy is okay. That there are a certain class of people who can reign it over others, and then the rest of us just have to take it on the chin all week long. We got this from kings and serfs, and Industrial Revolution, robber barons, and labor, and we've sort of brought it through to the contemporary world, and it doesn't actually fit us anymore. I mean, today's headlines, right, in Marketplace, in the Journal, CEO pay up 10% this year while everybody else is, suffering. It's not a big stretch to see the CEO admin split as an extension of this concept. And it's kind of built on this idea that there's a limited pie. But there's not a limited pie. It's not just the people at the top who deserve the spoils. Everybody, their full life force, remember? Their full life force, everyone deserves to thrive, to live a technicolor life. Because the magnitude of the trade when somebody is coming to be with you at work, I mean, do you understand the magnitude of what someone is giving you when they come to work for you, or what you, in turn, are giving when you work? It's unimaginable. Okay, so I put some numbers together because I know we're a really quant-oriented society. Do you know that the average 30-year-old, educated 30-year-old, in this culture at least, is $1 million investment? That's using the government's actual own numbers, like how much it costs to raise a child from 0 to 18 and to educate them in college, and then using standard of living numbers. So what I want you to do is to start thinking about what it's like if everybody that you encountered in the corridor was a $1 million man or woman. What would that do if you saw them sort of as a walking treasure? But even the money is a flat-footed proxy for someone's potential and their magnificence. So this used to be a struggle. It doesn't have to be a struggle anymore. We can rehumanize the workforce. What is called for is that we start seeing people through this idea of their own magnificence, that we see them through a lens of love, that we bring our love to work. And I know some of you are going to have a problem with the word love, but I'll get to that in a minute. The new table stakes for the work community is being good to each other first. Humanism, people-ism, over capitalism. The people matter more than the capital. I'm not alone in this. Captains of major intergalactic spaceships and major countries agree with me. You could use other words. You could use reverence or dignity or other things that might feel less personal to you. But fundamentally, the word love is really the only way to express it. But we don't mean romantic love. We don't mean roses and all that stuff, although that's beautiful. What we mean is a deeper form of love for all life. I see you. I accept who you are as you right now. I value you. I want the best for you, even if it doesn't mean the best for me. When you are not your best self, because I know that's in there, it's just an aberration. I wait for you to return to the highest and best self that I know you have. I hold the higher vision for you over the moment. Without this, in cultures of hierarchy and judgment and control, what happens to people is they bring their anger and their anxiety and their fear into the workplace. And what they do with that is they lie and steal and attack and defend and blame and do all that other stuff that people do when they're feeling small and unsafe. But if you bring love in, if you inquire and listen deeply and care for people and see them as a magnificent $1 million man walking, all of a sudden something happens, right? You know when you're feeling loved what it's like. You open, you share, you say things that you otherwise might not say, and the truth outs, and things get done more smoothly. So, this is not necessarily something that's going to be easy to implement as a top-down strategy. Although Tom Shoes and Joie de Vivre, Chip Conley's hotel line, that they've all done this very, very well. But you can begin right now. You can be the seed. You can begin transforming your workplace by being the brave one to love more first. You can step out and begin to do some simple practices that can cultivate this. There are lots of them to do, so we're going to just do one together here if you'll humor me. Close your eyes. I'd like you to sort of feel your own heartbeat just for one moment. Again, sort of get grounded. And then call to mind a time in your life when someone was looking at you with incredible eyes of love, where they just, you could see it in their faces. They just thought you were magnificent. They were so open and embracing. They were looking at you and just saying, oh, fantastic. And then I want you to switch your memory and recall a time when you were giving that same love energy out to someone else, when you were magnanimous and kind and patient, and you saw their shining soul. They just, a fully embodied person, and you were this loving force. So now if you would open your eyes and without saying anything, make eye contact with the person next to you. And hold this thought for them. I see you. I want to know who you really are. I want the best for you. I want you to succeed more than I want myself to succeed. And I hold the highest vision for what's possible for you. Okay, so you can break the gaze because that gets uncomfortable. But, so the next experiment is tomorrow morning. Because I want you to walk into work tomorrow morning and just try it. You'll be stunned. When you walk in with that energy, hey, I love you, man. When you walk in with that energy, like things totally change. Your experience of work and what you attract changes. Because if you bring anything less than this with you, even if you've got the smile and you've got the proper words, you know what? People know. Because you send off all these other signals, thousands of other signals that are picked up by our magnificent sense organs all the time. And the sense organs are processing that information and triggering chemical reactions before any conscious thought is formed. So if you are thinking something negative about someone else, no matter how much you're trying to mask it, they're going to know. And they're going to react with that anxiety and anger and fear. And the only way to change that is to begin shifting your very foundational lens. Lens of love will change the workplace. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to put on your love goggles, to remember and reconsider the foundations that our workplace is built on, what you're willing to give in exchange for work and what you're willing to take from others when they're working with you, and to acknowledge the million-dollar man or woman thing as they come down the hall, and to honor their mothers and teachers and rabbis and haberdashers and lovers who have invested in them and gotten them to this point by rethinking how we design work and how we interact with each other day to day. Because I believe from that rethinking, a whole new flow of experience will come on the natural. Because when you see somebody through this lens, you can't treat them the way we've been treating the most of the people in our work culture, in our workforce. So I'm hoping you'll do this. I'm holding a vision for a new relationship between people and capital, and between each other, for this baby and for all of the babies that we once were. Thank you.